Спасибі велике, Анатолій Кирилович, за такий, я б сказав, фундаментальний вступ. І одразу хочу сказати, випереджаючи певним чином події, що про окремі з цих питань ми будемо говорити. І фактично наше сьогодні обговорення зводиться до 4 блоків питань. Кожен блок питань є частиною, так мовити, нашого проєкту, і всі разом вони складають відповідний документ, і на основі цього документу будуть опрацьовуватися рекомендації. В першій частині ми поговоримо про дві надзвичайно важливі, до першого нашого кавобрейку, поговоримо про дві надзвичайно важливі речі. Ми поговоримо про оцінку проєктів обхідних газопроводів російського «Газпрому» в контексті енергетичної безпеки Європи. Тому що дуже часто, коли ми говоримо про ці газопроводи, ми починаємо говорити з точки зору України. Подобається, не подобається, економічно вигідно і так далі. Давайте спробуємо отримати панорамний, так мовити, погляд з того боку, з боку Європейського Союзу. І далі ми поговоримо про питання, пов'язані із політикою Європейського Союзу щодо диверсифікації поставок. Тобто, які є на сьогоднішній день реальні економічні і технологічні шанси, ну ми так це делікатно сформулювали, розмити ринкову владу «Газпрому». У нас є свої інтереси, ми, так мовити, бажаємо російському народові і «Газпрому» успіхів в їх, так мовити, комерційній роботі, але водночас ми б хотіли, так мовити, свого боку захистити свої власні економічні інтереси, і тому, якщо вони хочуть нам, так мовити, зафіксувати певний режим співпраці, то ми шукаємо можливості, як цей режим співпраці зробити таким, щоб він безпосередньо брав до уваги інтереси України і не тільки України. Починаємо нашу, так мовити, основну змістовну частину. Я хотів би надати слово пану Андрашу Діку, представникові Угорського інституту міжнародних справ, міжнародних відносин, який якраз і почне, так мовити, нашу сьогоднішню дискусію з оцінки проєктів обхідних газопроводів російського «Газпрому» в контексті підвищення або непідвищення енергетичної безпеки Європи. Будь ласка, пане Андраш.
Thank you, Igor. Thank you for the invitation for this seminar. So as Igor mentioned, my basic task was to analyze the bypassing pipeline issue, namely the Nord Stream, the Yamal Europe, and the South Stream pipelines. What are the argumentation behind the Russian behavior? What is the EU policy, and what kind of impacts it may have to Ukraine and to the Visegrad region? Well, of course, this is a very broad topic. That's why I picked only 3 major messages for this presentation. I picked, in the Russian case, the changing geography of gas production, which gives, I think, a good deal of technical and economic justification for some bypassing projects. In this EU case, I will little bit spoke about the internal competitivity factor, which is crucial in qualifying these bypassing pipeline projects. And in the case of Ukraine, I will speak a little bit about the significance of the transit issue as such. And in the last, I will just give speak a little bit about the common opportunities between the Visegrad and countries and Ukraine. So if we come to Russia, I have to say that Ukraine had a good piece of luck in '91 because all the gas exports, almost all of the Russian gas exports to Europe went through Ukraine. And this was due to the fact that when this gas pipeline network was created, the geography of Soviet gas production was rather balanced. So as you may see, it is in the blue circles. This shows the level of gas production in 1980 in Western Siberia, in Central Asia. I even could add Orenburg and North Caucasus, a similar size circle in the middle. So if you have such a geographic setting of gas production and you would like to export these gas, Ukraine was a normal, reasonable option. And all these pipeline systems were created through Ukraine, Progress, Soyuz, and the others. Well, if you look at today, 2012, we see that there was a huge shift to the north of gas production. I'm not speaking about the Soviet split up and that the Central Asian gas goes not to Europe anymore, but to China more and more. So if you ask the Gazprom and the Russians that in this situation, what route would you would choose? I don't think that Ukraine is such a natural option. Because if you look at the shortest distances from this indicated on this level, as you may see there, Yamal Peninsula, the Bovenenko field, the shortest route to the biggest European market, namely Germany, is through the Baltic states and the Baltic Sea. But even Italy, it is rather Belarus and Poland. They should lead their pipeline systems. So in this sense, what I would like to say that the North Sea pipeline and even the Yamal pipeline, which was started in 1993, and even that time they called it the Yamal pipeline, even if the first Yamal production started only 20 years after this year. So in the late Soviet planning, it was very well planned that there will be this kind of diversification of export routes. I think this is technically and from the economic point is justified. The quasi-monopoly over gas transit, the Ukrainian quasi-monopoly was simply not sustainable, simply because the gas production shifted to the north, simply because the gas consumption in Europe shifted to the north to a great extent. The situation is very much different if you look at the South Stream. South Stream in the current form is a huge bypass. So that's a real bypassing pipeline, not the Nord Stream. As you may see, the gas would come from Urengoy and from the Yamal Peninsula and make a huge roundabout to avoid Ukraine. So from the technical and from the economic point of view, there is hardly any justification for that, or only partly. I think this is justified by the Gazprom frustration over transit issues as such, and in particular over Ukrainian transit issue. It does not mean that they won't make it. I don't believe in a 4-line South Stream. I believe in 1, 2 lines, but even that's quite a sizable amount. But I just would like to say that from the Russian point of view, here Ukraine has a chance as a leverage, because the Russians would pay a lot of money in order to supply gas to the same European markets on a much longer route. And this is, from the economic point of view, not very reasonable. This differentiation can also maintained if we speak from the European point of view. Europe does not have an external transit strategy. So Europe, at least the Commission, at the Commission level and the policy level, they don't want to determine what routes shall be used for imports. Of course, there is some differentiation if it comes for new sources, as it was the case in Azerbaijan, but definitely the European Commission does not have real legal instruments and leverage determining or influencing the way how the gas or the fuels come to the continent. For the European Commission, this is an internal issue. This is an internal competitive issue. The question is that these new pipelines, how these new pipelines will influence the regional competitiveness issue. And in that light, this very much determines what kind of regulation is going to be set, what kind of exemptions will be given for a particular pipeline. In the Nord Stream arrived in Germany, in northern Germany, where you have, as you see on the lower picture, a very dense system, a very dense network, and you also have a relatively competitive gas market. So in northern Germany, you can buy Dutch gas, you can buy Norwegian gas, you can import gas from Dutch hubs. So in the light of this, the Commission was relatively relaxed over Nord Stream and provided a number of exemptions from third-party access to the parties. Not in all the cases, as you may know, in Opal that was very much disputed, settled now. But that was simply because the Russian gas through Nord Stream arrived in a relatively competitive region. The situation is very much different in the South Stream, because if you look at the South Stream, in the Balkans, Bulgaria, Serbia, Romania, Greece are exclusively, almost exclusively supplied by Russian gas. So it is pretty sure that from the competitivity point of view, this South Stream pipeline will not, or will be much less eligible for exemptions from the general regulation than it was the case in the Nord Stream. So the reason why the regulatory part of the South Stream is not set between Russia and the EU Commission, that the EU Commission is very firm in saying that you have to give third-party access to this system. And this is understandably a commercial threat for Gazprom, and this is still unsettled. So I think that one of the basic corporate risks for Gazprom in South Stream is the European onshore regulation. Because if third-party access will be given, of course, this opens up opportunities, and reverse flow also will be provided. This opens up opportunities both for reservoir supplies or even reverse flow from Italian LNG and others. So I think that in this regard, the two bypassing pipelines, I mean the Nord Stream and South Stream, two different cases, both from the Russian perspective and from the EU perspective. If it comes to Ukraine, just shortly, I think that the significance of the transit issue has changed a lot in Ukraine in the last 10 years. Today, transit and gas import issues are basically unbundled. So you pay the European price, even more, for gas imports, and you have a decreasing trend in transit revenues. And well, if 10 years ago, transit revenues were roughly the same as your gas import bill, now today transit revenues are insignificant if compared to the gas import bill. So what I would like to say that the transit issue remains an important issue for Ukraine, but this is a sectoral problem. What to do with the network? What to do with those smaller revenues? But the gas import issue, which is unbundled and separate, I think basically separate now from the transit issue, or just very loosely interconnected, is a major economic headache for Ukraine. You pay more than 8% of your GDP on your gas import bill. Hungary, which has the same proportion of gas imports in its primary energy balance, pays only 3%. So that's a non-sustainable situation. And in the longer run, or even in the short run, I think that you have to look much more on the gas import story energy efficiency story, and from this point of view, transit is not a leverage anymore really against the Russians. Those times are over. It's an important issue, but you will not be able to influence too much the Russians. At last, just a short comment on Visegrad and Ukraine cooperation. So if South Stream, or even one line or two line, is going to be built, this leaves a huge pipeline system idle in Slovakia and in Ukraine. So the basic questions in the gas industry will how to make use of it. And this is a problem for the TSOs and others. So that's why I think that both for the Visegrad countries and Ukraine, this is a common interest to step into the internal market in order to get, in the case of Ukraine, to get connected with the Western European hubs, with Baumgarten, where you have access to cheaper gas, to be able to import cheaper gas from the West, but not only for this, but also a stronger cooperation between the Visegrad countries and Ukraine, common regulatory framework can provide guarantees for foreign investors in Ukraine that they will be able to export their gas to European markets. And this is also very important, I think. You usually think that you would like to integrate to the internal market because you would like to import cheap gas from the West. But I also see the other way, that if you can give by common regulation a guarantee for a foreign investor, foreign energy investor in Ukraine, that he will be able, at calculable conditions, export his gas to the European markets, and you get the royalty, that's a very important guarantee for any kind of external investors. So I think that it really makes sense to think over integration of the regional gas markets. Thank you very much.